So now let's move to number 4. Now here, guys, before I read this section, I'm going to give you a set of definitions, okay? So the first one that I want to give you is criteria. That's here, right? So I'm going to give you a definition for that. A criteria are the standards by which you judge something. So again, the standards by which you judge something. Okay? So look at this note here. Criteria is the plural for criterion, which is single. So you have several criteria and one criterion, okay? Because that's our irregular noun. So that's criteria. I'm going to give you another definition. This definition is going to be for genre, which is located here. It's G-E-N-R-E. Genre you should be familiar with. You should have had this in high school. So a genre just means a type. So for example, here, if we're talking about films, the type of film could be a Western, a romantic comedy, an action film, a mystery, horror flick. So those are different types of film, okay? And you are going to be selecting your genre. So here's how this is going to work. So listen to me carefully because this might be a bit confusing. So think about the title of the movie that you want to review. Let's say you want to review the movie The Notebook. Okay, The Notebook is a romance. So now that you know that you're going to be reviewing a romance, I want you to forget about the specific movie for a minute, okay? So just forget about the movie. You're going to talk about the genre. So in this section of your paper, you are going to write about the genre, the type of film. And this is what you're thinking. What do I look for in a romance? What do I want to see in a good romance? Right? Or if your film is a Western, or if it's an action film, or if it's a mystery. So for me, I like mysteries. So here are some things that I look for in a mystery. I want a complex plot. That means that I don't want to figure out who did it in the first 5 minutes. I want it to be a really complex plot that I get to think about for the whole movie. So another thing about mysteries are I want the main character, the detective, to be really smart. So I don't want him to be a buffoon. I want him to be a really intelligent, he could be a detective or a private investigator, but I want him to be really smart because I want to be looking at the clues along with him. So y'all follow me on that? So this is what you're going to be doing in this section. And this is going to be the backbone of your paper. Now, don't worry, you know we're going to do this a step at a time. I just need you to get the notes down and kind of understand what I'm talking about. Now, remember I told you to forget about your movie? Now, in writing the paper, you will have written down what you look for in the genre that you're going to be writing about. But the very last sentence of that paragraph will be when you're going to mention your movie. So look at what I say here. Do not mention your film until the very last sentence of this paragraph. You are talking about the category here, not the specific movie. Be sure to make each of your criteria very clear. So we've done that. Now, so we're going to be getting to the last page. So look at what I say here. What matters to you? I just said that I want a good plot and I want an interesting character. You decide what you look for in a film. Is it plot, characterization, action, good acting, special effects, a musical score? What is it? Now, look at what I say. Be forewarned. However many criteria you list, that is how many paragraphs you will have to write for the body of your review. So I just previously listed 2. So I would have to write a paragraph on each one of those criteria. I'd have to write one on complex plot, and I'd have to write one on really intelligent main character, okay? So let's say you've done all of that, and now you're ready for the last sentence of your paragraph, your criteria paragraph. This is where you would say, you're going to conclude this paragraph with a statement that indicates whether or not The movie you have chosen meets this criteria. This is the only sentence in this section that's going to refer to the movie. Everything else is going to be about the genre. So remember that. Now we'll come back to that, so don't worry about that. Now I'm going to say some things that are not listed on your flyer that have to do with criteria, okay? So I want you to jot these down so that you can remember that. So the first thing I'm going to say is this. When I say significant criteria, I mean something meaningful. So you can't say, oh, I like girls in bikinis walking down beaches in the movie. That's a criterion for me. No, that's not significant. Or you can't say, I like movies set in New Orleans. So that's a criteria. No, that's not a significant criteria. When I say criteria, I mean something that is meaningful. Okay, so make sure that you make a note of that. Also, there are some aspects of films that you'll have to write about because they are integral to a film. So let's say you're going to write about a film that's a musical. You have to talk about the music in that film because it's a musical and the music is integral to that film. Another type of film that might have an integral aspect would be a sports film. So if you're going to write about The Blind Side, you can't write about The Blind Side without talking about football. Or if you're going to write about 42, that was the movie about Jackie Robinson, you cannot write about the movie 42 without talking about baseball. So there are some films that have integral parts to them that you must discuss. Another film similar to that might be a film that has incredible special effects, such as what's that movie about the blue people? I can't think of it. Avatar. So that movie, that has a great deal of special effects. So you couldn't review that movie without talking about the special effects. So just remember that some genres have specifics that you have to deal with. So sports films, musicals, movies that have a great deal of special effects. Okay? All right. So let's move on. We now have a criteria section that explains what we're looking for in a particular genre. You've just ended this paragraph by saying that your film either does or does not meet the criteria you have set out for a particular genre. You're now ready to actually talk about the film. So in section number 5, you're going to write a paragraph for each of the criteria you mentioned in the previous paragraph. Back up each of your judgments with specifics from the movie. That is, take each of your criteria one at a time and write a paragraph that tells whether the movie you are reviewing meets that criterion. To prove that your movie meets the criterion you are discussing, you must describe at least 3 scenes from the movie showing that it meets the criterion. Providing these scene descriptions shows your readers that you are right in your judgment. This section will consist of several paragraphs depending on how many criteria you noted above. You must discuss 1 criterion per paragraph. So let me give you an example. So remember we talked about those different ways of developing paragraphs? Well, in this case, you're going to be using scenes from the film to develop your paragraph. And your topic sentence is going to say something along these lines. My film, or you could actually say the name of the film at this point. So you could say Rush Hour 3 has great action scenes. Now, if you've said that, you should be able to back it up with some scenes from the movie. Now, if you can't do that, if you can't find 3 scenes where there's a great deal of action, then maybe your film doesn't have a lot of action. Or maybe you said your film has some great romantic scenes in it. But if you can't find 3 scenes where there is some great romance going on, maybe your film doesn't have as much romance as you think. So remember that your scenes will prove what you're saying about the film. Okay? All right, now, The number of paragraphs that you write for number 5 are determined by how many significant criteria you discuss in number 4. Okay, and remember what I told you all: it's summertime, and short is good in summertime. So that means that, I don't know if that's Carter or Jace, those two of you who are long-winded, we don't need a whole lot of criteria, okay? All right, now let's look at the very last thing. You're going to conclude your review with a sentence that restates your opinion. So here you're essentially saying, see, I told you this was a great action film, or I told you this was the best love movie you've ever seen. So that is what you're going to be doing. So now, students, remember that I'm not going to assign all of this at once. So your assignment tonight is one sentence. Remember that you have one sentence, and all you have to do for that one sentence is to write your thesis statement. Let's go back to number 2. That's the first task that you have. Right, and I'm doing this so that if you haven't watched the film, you'll get a chance to watch some film for guys. But remember, this essay is going to be due Sunday night, so that means that you do not have a lot of time. Okay, but your task right now is simply to write a thesis statement. At this point, you know whether you like the movie or not, and you can say that in one sentence. And so I want you to submit that in Brightspace, and I'll make some comments back for you, and then we'll move on. If you think you can, go ahead and start working on your recap. And remember that I do have models for you in Brightspace. Remember to go to Brightspace, click on content, click on the models, and look at the models there for the review essay. And let me say this, I think that it will be a good idea for you to see the film more than once. And that of course, is the great thing about Netflix, Hulu Plus, Amazon Prime, and all those other streaming services. And that is that you can see the movie more than one time. You're going to be surprised at how much you've forgotten about movies that you think that you like so much you would not forget them. Okay, students? All right, I'll be talking to you again. So remember that you now have this film with my instruction. You can take notes from this, or you can simply look at the film again. Okay? All right. Thanks a bunch.